everybody. This is episode number 31 with Pam Klein. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Little Perspective. Today we are with Pam. How are you doing today, Pam?
I'm fabulous, thank you. Yeah, I'm glad to be here.
Thank you so much. So we just start the podcast with the guests just telling a little bit about themselves and just so everybody's on the same page.
Sure. Okay, well, my name is Pam Klein, and kind of my day job is I'm president of Phoenix Group, which is an advertising company, and I also Chancellor of the U of R, and I've got two growing kids who are fabulous, and my husband Steve. So there's lots of great things I get to do in the community, certainly because of Phoenix Group, but also as Chancellor. So that's a great position for me to hold.
That's awesome. Right. So, Pam, Phoenix Group is so well known in Regina. What's the backstory? How did it happen?
Well, it actually started, about 43 years ago. And Graham Barker started it. And actually, he came from an agency that was dying, and he decided, okay, Phoenix Group is like the bird rising, and he started Phoenix Group at that time. And so I've been there 26 years, and I've just enjoyed it. And I certainly haven't been president. I've been president for 16 years, and before that I was director of interactive media. And there's great people, and we're about 46. And we create really great advertising communications. So certainly here, certainly in Alberta, and we have one in BC as well.
Wow,
that's awesome. I actually want to know about your experience as a chancellor at the UFR.
It's absolutely fabulous. I've been on the board for 6 years. I was actually vice chair.
Right.
And then I had the opportunity, the way it works is Senate elects the chancellor. So there was another person running, and I ran. Unfortunately, I won. And I've been on just about 6 years. So actually, I'm done in June. And it's really great because you chair several meetings as Senate. I'm also still on the board. And there's really interesting things that you get to do. And one of the things I'm really excited about is we started the Chancellor's Community. So what it is we select students, certainly undergrad and PhD, and as well as masters. And what we do is we provide them, certainly for the undergrads, 4 years of full scholarship, and they also get the first year of accommodation. And it works out great that they have the ability that they give back to community. That's part of Chancellor's Community. And as well, they have at least a 95% average. So they are exceptional. So what they do in the community, it may be in their school, it may be in the city that they live in, but they really do something substantial. And that's the same with our masters and PhD. They too are community leaders, and they too have a high average. And, if you're doing a PhD and a master's, you certainly have a great idea.
Right.
So this is a second year for the community, and we'll soon be announcing our next recipients. And they're from all over Saskatchewan. We actually had one from Nanaimo. So it's great to see, and they are excellent, and they are great students, and they contribute to the U of R in a very big way.
So the students are chosen as per their high school grades?
Yes.
Yeah.
So they come right out of high school.
Right.
So they may have been in soccer, they may be in basketball, but they do something to the community. So they may be on SRC. They usually do some kind of fundraising that gives money back to the school. So it really is great because they are big community players. And actually, I think one had like a 98.5 average. Like they are exceptional. And actually, I said in my school, I would never have gotten it because I was way below that.
So Pam, in all these numerous leadership roles, what's been the biggest takeaway?
Oh my goodness. Well, I've been on lots of boards. I think I was 24 with the first board that I was on.
Wow.
And I'm on several each year. And I would say one of the greatest joys in being the board is certainly Chancellor. It's been very rewarding, and lots of benefits. Certainly the students who are kind of our first problem that we really want to solve and give them a great opportunity at the U of R. So we do have a lot of students, and certainly being the Chancellor is certainly a fabulous position, and I'm certainly going to miss it when I'm gone, but I still have the opportunity. Actually, I chair the Inspiring Leadership Forum, which happens once a year, and this year it's in March, and we have great guests that come from all over the world, and we interview them, and it's a whole day. And I think this year, we have 888, and many on podcast as well.
Nice.
But yeah, it's a great feeling. So I'm going to continue to chair that, which is a great feeling for sure.
So a big chunk of your time has been dedicated to being a chancellor. So you mentioned you're gonna miss it when it's gone, right? So
Yeah.
what's the plan after?
Well, I don't know. Actually,
Okay.
so I'm still on a board. I actually have 3 boards that are done this July. So I'm going to have a little bit of time, and I'm actually just figuring out if I'm going to go on another board and what that looks like. So honestly, I've been on a board, ever since I was like 23, 24. So I'm just going to figure out where I go, and I actually am a member of the board governance. So that gives me an opportunity as well. So I'm just going to take a look and just see what's out there and what's possible.
Right. So, you're so passionate about people in Saskatchewan who giving back to the community. Were you born and brought up in Saskatchewan, or was the background like?
Well, I was actually born in Saskatoon, and then I moved here when I was 5, and then I lived here and I went to school, and I did my undergraduate degree at the U of R, and then I did my master's at the U of M, and between that I traveled, and I had just a great opportunity to see the world. I went quite a few places, and I worked, and I think that was a great reward as well. I think growing up, my parents said, we're going to travel, and you need travel in your life. And they traveled all over the world. My dad was president of Kinsman at that time, and they'd leave for a month or two, and then they'd come back.
Right.
And we just learned that is such a great opportunity. And my kids have traveled, we've traveled, and it's just a great gift, certainly to learn and expand your thinking for sure.
So how do you evolve as a person? Like you mentioned, traveling is important, right? So you as a person who has that traveling experience, worked in different places, compared to a person who, either thinks about it or doesn't do it. What would you tell that person? What, this is my pitch, that why you should do it.
Well, I think it's a great opportunity, and it may not be far away. It could be just close. It is that opportunity to experience something bigger than yourselves. And even if you're in a small town in Saskatchewan, you learn something. I worked in Italy, I worked in China, I lived on the East Coast, I've lived in many provinces, but I've had an opportunity to see people in a very different way.
So I'm really passionate about traveling. I really, really believe that everybody should go on a solo trip. I would say just go solo. If nobody's joining you, go out there, talk to the local people, right? What's your favorite country been? And do you have a story that you want to share?
Well, Costa Rica is my favorite place. It's so beautiful. We've been to the north, we've been to the south. It really is great. But my early travels really shaped how I lived and what I thought. I lived in China for 2.5 years. I lived in Italy for 8 months, and it really did. And I went solo. I agree that it's great to go solo. You don't have to go with anybody. And actually, even my husband and I travel alone, and he might go on his own, and we travel together for sure. But we do appreciate that opportunity to just experience it on our own. So there's a few places. I don't know. There's so many. They all have something special that makes them unique.
Right. Man, 2.5 years in China. How was that like?
It was really interesting because it was actually quite a long time ago. I was actually First of all, I was in Heilongjiang. There were 14 million people, and maybe there were 8 foreigners. So
Wow.
we were an anomaly. I had guards, I had people following me. I remember one funny time I was riding a bike and somebody said, "Oh, that person is fat riding that bike," and I knew Chinese and I could read Chinese, so I could understand what they were saying. So that was really amusing. And then I went back and I came back for 6 months, and then the government sent me to do research on what could possibly be something that we could do in Saskatchewan. So I went to Jilin, and I was there, I think, another year, and I just met great people. I think there was maybe 10 million there and just a few number of foreigners, but it was just such a great experience to, even the first day I could go out and I could buy eggs, and I actually could say eggs. And it was really interesting to me how really easy it was, and it's very complicated, but to learn Chinese was fantastic for sure.
So, living in the western part of the world and moving to the east for like I think 2 years is a long time. What was one of your cultural shocks, as to say?
Certainly being a white person in that area, I remember I would go to schools and speak, and I remember they were packed with young students, and I remember somebody coming and feeling my nose and feeling my face, like it was the first time they'd seen a foreigner. So that was shocking for sure. And I had a really interesting experience. I went and traveled to Tibet.
Okay.
And I actually went to Beijing, which I don't know, was maybe 8 or 10 hours. And then I traveled to Tibet. And then I came back and I got really, really sick. So it was like I was coming back on a train and I just thought, oh my God, I can't even get off this train. I was so sick. But I got better and I came back. I was actually in the hospital for a week. But it was still a good experience. Like it was still part of my travel being there. And, again, I saw where it was and what it looked like. And another time I was pickpocketed. Everything was gone. I had no passport. I had nothing. And I remember because there were guards on the train, and I took a train to Beijing, and I just thought, oh my God, if somebody asks me, I have no idea. I had no idea. I had nothing. So fortunately, I was able to get a passport, and then it was great traveling around. But it was intense for 2 weeks to not have any idea and nothing to show who you were.
So what were you doing in China? Like you mentioned that you were there for research purposes. So like, what was your job back then?
So first of all, I took over a job for a friend who had to come home. So I taught English, I learned Chinese, and that was kind of my life. I was living there. And then when I came back, the government knew I'd been to China, and they said, okay, if you can go and find out what we could do here. We had many Chinese people coming, certainly to the U of R and working in Saskatchewan, but we really didn't know what we could do in Saskatchewan. And actually, I found that it's actually Chinese medicine is what we could do and what we could adopt here. I don't think they did it, but it was still a very extensive research project and very rewarding as well.
Right. What's different about Chinese medicines compared to what we have?
Well, part of it is it's all it's Eastern medicine, and it's made out of natural products. And certainly at the time, there was certainly acupuncture. There was so many things that you could experience from Chinese medicine, and it's very different from our medicine. Like we have prescriptions, we have those kinds of things here, and they didn't have it in China. It was just a very different method. And even when I was sick that time, I would go to a pharmacy and I would just describe what was wrong with me, and they'd give me something and I'd take it. It was just an easier way to manage your body.
Right. I feel like especially the modern medicine industry is based on selling pills to people,
For
right?
sure.
So there was this picture that I saw on Instagram, And basically, this guy goes to a doctor. He's like, "Hey, doctor, I am having some issues." So like he analyzes him, and the doctor says, "You have some problems because of your lifestyle, right?" So the guy says, "So should I change my lifestyle?" He's like, "No, no, no, absolutely not. Just take this pill."
Oh my gosh. Well, I can imagine that. That isn't a very good way.
So do you have any, like you've done 2 years of research on medicine, right? Do you have any advice for people out there?
Well, I do think it's worth trying. I've received medical attention, and I'm on Western medicine. I don't. I do take not really Chinese medicine, but natural medicine to help me heal. So I do think it's a great way. And here, it's everywhere. Like it's not even Chinese medicine. It's just what we have as part of certainly the diagnosis that you go through.
So you mentioned that right now you're on Western medicine,
Yeah.
and I think we talked about this like in our pre-podcast meeting as well. That you mentioned that while your time at Phoenix Group as well, and before that, you did go through some health issues.
Yeah.
So, like, would you like to tell us about that? Like,
Oh, sure, no problem. So I was 40-ish, and my kids were really, really young. My daughter was 4, and my son was 6. And so I had breast cancer. So I went through about a year of surgeries and treatment, mastectomy, and I did all those things. And certainly I'm cancer-free, but that was, thank you. But that was part of what, that's part of what I went through. And it still comes to my mind if I'm sick or I think about it. It's always in your mind that it somehow comes up in some way. It's just kind of in the back of your brain, and it does come up. But yeah, I'm great for sure.
And like not like picking or like certain things that actually like remind you of those things, but how do you cope with that? Because it's not something that's it's like a cold or something,
Right?
Like it's a serious thing.
Yep.
So how did that change your mindset? And now,
Well, I think there's kind of a few things. Like I certainly think of gratitude. I certainly think of there's a lightness to it. Like you can find a positive way, and it changes you substantially. So, like I had young kids, and it's funny because my daughter had a friend come over who was 4, and I had no hair, and he looked at me and he goes to Greta and she goes, "What's wrong with your mom?" And she goes, "Oh, it's her medicine." And she goes, "Oh my God, tell her to stop." Like this, just a humor from someone. So for sure, there's hardships for sure, but you do manage to get through it, and it's each step. And that's one thing that I did too. Each step was a way to get better, so that helped for sure.
were you ever scared? Like like people are usually scared about their own lives, or like in your case, you had like very young kids. What was the biggest fear in your mind at that time?
Well, I think it was my kids. Like it was really because they were very young. So it was thinking about them and giving them the lesson to understand certainly what I had, but I would get better. So it was teaching them certainly what cancer was like and what it was to live with it as well. And I think they did get it. They understood, even though they were young, but they certainly remember it now for sure.
Right. And you mentioned like like they're all grown-ups and everything.
Yeah.
And they're doing really great in their lives. First of all, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So I feel like opening up your kids to something like that at a very young age also shapes and sharpens their mentality, their mindset as well, right?
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. And like I said, they've traveled a lot. And my daughter lives in Whitehorse, which is a pretty interesting place to live.
Wow.
In BC, right?
No, in the Yukon.
Yukon.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's
And
even-
my
okay.
son lives in Kelowna. He has a great life. So they aren't here. I'm not sure if they'll come back. They kind of like their life, but they are great. And actually, I'm going next weekend to Whitehorse. So yeah, so it's great. And I see my son, twice a year. My husband and I go.
Nice.
So yeah, they live in really great places to visit.
So you said you have 2 sons?
No, I have my daughter who lives in Whitehorse and
Oh,
my
daughter
son
lives in
who lives in
Whitehorse,
Kelowna. Yeah.
So you got grandkids?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, they're not married, and yeah, I don't know if they'll have kids. I don't know.
Oh, okay.
How does your daughter like Whitehorse?
She really likes it. It actually, it was an interesting time for her because she was working here. She loved Lululemon and just didn't move up with the company. And she says, okay, I'm going to apply anywhere. And so she had several interviews with Whitehorse. And so she has a job, certainly with the government. She's with Health and Social Services, and she's like a communication digital analyst, and she loves it. It's a really interesting place because it is a capital city, but it might be 35, 40,000 people. But it's still really interesting. Like I kind of call it not really backwards, but it is a little bit backwards. Like they are hunters, they are fishers. It's beautiful for outdoors and exploring anything outside, and they really enjoy it. So they live life in a very, very good way. And it's interesting too, because you think of restaurants there, and they don't have a lot of restaurants. Like they may not have a lot of Chinese, they may not have a lot of pizza. It's maybe one or two that are exceptional. Like people are from all over the world living in Whitehorse, so they choose to live there. So so it's good for her. And I think she might want to move south, but I'm not sure when that's going to happen.
Right. We actually had one of our guests, David Bailoff.
Oh yes, yeah,
Yeah, you know him?
yeah.
So I think he went to either Whitehorse or Yellowknife for his research project.
Yeah.
And he was
okay.
telling us a story about how people live there. So I might butcher the story, sorry, David, but basically he said that there was one time that a polar bear came into the community, and what they did is they put everybody in one room and they hunt the bear. After they hunt the bear, they cut the bear into pieces and they gave those pieces to everybody just as a meat for everybody to eat. So he was like, that was an interesting scenario because you won't see that down south.
Here, no,
right?
no. You might see them in a zoo.
Yeah, exactly.
that kind of thing. And my daughter, she hasn't run into a polar bear, but certainly has bear spray. But they certainly have coyotes and foxes just in the city, all the time. And actually, I was there one time and I heard all these police cars, and I thought, what is going on? And there was a bear going across the street. And there was another animal as well, just on the main street. But they got it and they put it in the wilderness or somewhere for it to thrive. It's everywhere in the Yukon.
Yeah.
So Pam, I have a question. So help me paint the timeline. So you mentioned when you were traveling in China. So how old were you at that time?
I think I would have been maybe, I'd say 27, 28, maybe 29. I can't quite remember, but
Okay.
yeah.
So were you and your husband together back then?
No, but yes.
Oh, okay.
So one time I was there, and then we came back, and we were together, and then we actually moved to New Brunswick,
Okay.
and we were just friends.
Okay.
And then it turned into more and love, and we've been married for 34 years. So
Wow, let's go.
yeah,
That's awesome.
so yeah,
That's
it is
crazy.
pretty awesome. Yeah,
Congratulations.
thank you.
So you came back to China. How was life like? What was the trajectory of your life? Because I know you traveled a lot, but so for me, the timeline that I was asking is you come back, you're with your husband, and where did that lead you?
Well, I did actually, I finished my master's, and that's when I went to New Brunswick. And then we decided actually we're going to have kids, and I moved back. But it's interesting that you ask kind of how you changed. And I did change a lot. And it's funny because I was in a movie and I actually butted in line in front of people, and somebody goes, "Where are you from?" And I thought, oh my God, I just brought Chinese to Regina. It was so foreign for them. And I just realized, okay, I've got to remember where I am and what I have to do.
Okay. So you basically saying some values got carried forward.
Oh yeah, for sure.
From the east to the west.
Yeah.
Okay. So you came back, and so how did that lead you into Phoenix Group?
Well, it's interesting because my master's was in curriculum design. So I was actually working with my husband in New Brunswick, and actually we worked in developing really CD-ROMs and interactive training, and we did that for kind of elevators, for interesting opportunities where we worked. And then I came back and I worked for Canada Life for a few years. And then I had an opportunity. My friend went to Phoenix Group and they said, okay, we need somebody to help develop digital interactive. Like, actually, I think we had 2 sites, ours and maybe one other, perhaps a casino. So I started developing that, and I hired a few people, one that was from Canada Life, and we grew that business, and it was great. And then we fast forward, and the president gave me the opportunity to take the president over, and I managed with the group of people. Again, great people that we work with that manage really interesting things. But and like I said, I've been there for 26 years. So, it's been a good place for sure.
Was it overwhelming, that conversation, when the president's like, I want to pass the torch to you? How was that like?
It was a little bit surprising, but I also knew him very well, and he knew me very well. So, I remember we got everybody together and we said, this is our new regime, and we had new executive and myself as president, and we managed the agency, and he and another partner retired, and so the agency is ours.
Wow. So what changes have you brought forward as a president? Like, everybody brings their own set of leadership, their own set of skills to the table. So in your tenure as 16 years, you mentioned, as president, what changes have you brought forward for us?
Well, I think the biggest thing is we are a values-based agency. So we live by our values and we support them. So that's one part of it. But it's interesting because I bring leadership, which is, you can be a leader at any age. But I do bring what matters to me and what I think matters to our people. And that's how we have great people. And it's not just me. It really is how everybody thinks. But I do bring my own sense of leadership to the agency. And it's interesting, when I took over president, I actually had Kelly Garrett, who is a great executive coach, to teach me, like, what's it like to be a leader? What's it like to lead people? What's it like? And she was fantastic. And that helped me kind of formulate what matters to me and what I bring forward, for sure.
Being a leader and learning about leadership, right? It's not just theoretically that you've learned, but you've experienced it. You've been in the role of a leader, right?
Mm-hmm.
According to you, who is a good leader? What do you consider as a good leader? Because everybody has a different definition and everybody has a different leadership type. What's your leadership type and what does it look like?
It's my father, for sure. Like, he's 93. He's on boards. He travels. He's just written his memoir. And it's just, I follow him. Like, it's how he leads and how he treats people, which really matters to me. So he, for sure, is my number one leader, and who I have something happen, I share with him. And he really is someone remarkable.
Any stories you have for us that you're like, this is what I'm going to tell my kids, and I want them further telling other people, that you learned from your father?
Certainly that he taught me so many of the things. Like, he taught me certainly gratitude. He certainly taught me giving good to people. And certainly he learned through his life. Like, he traveled extensively. He now, with his wife, they live in Phoenix. They have their own business. And I teach my kids what he does and what he taught me. And actually, they adore him. They've gone on their own to visit him and hang out and just learn in how he lives his life. And he actually is an avid reader. Like, he can name any stat, any sports, you name it. He's got it. So there's something for my kids that they get from him. And that's what I said. They love to go visit him on their own.
Right. So I think it's a good segue into this question. So we started this podcast based on this idea that every person is like a walking book, right? And every person has their own story. And stories are very, very powerful, more powerful than we actually realize. So, like everybody has a story in their life that they relate to, and it could be like fiction or non-fiction. Like growing up, was there any story out there that you were inspired by? That it could be like somebody close to you, or it could be something that you saw in a movie. Is there any story that you really relate to, you're inspired by?
Right, and I think again it was my father. Like honestly, he just lives a good life, and I try to kind of emulate his life and his marriage. Like everything is positive about him, and you ask about a leader, and I say, yeah, he's a leader. There's other people that are great and strong, but he is someone that I look up greatly. So yeah, he is the story that I often tell. So, and he's actually written his memoir from 0 to 90. And it's a really great story. He was adopted and he shared that story, and he was very successful. So that's part of his story. And yeah, it's just part of his life. My kids have read it. All my family has, and it's been a great lesson for us.
So is the memoir something that's private, or is he going to publish that?
No, it's published already.
Okay.
It's in paperback and it's hardcover. We sell it. It was actually a bestseller. So it's been out, I think, a year. So
Would you like to tell us the name just for everybody to?
sure, it's from 0 to 90.
Okay.
Yeah.
And by?
Pardon me?
And by? Like the name of your product?
Will Klein is my dad.
Okay.
So it's by him. He wrote it all, and it's pictures, and even us are in it. Like it's just and people that he worked with that are very significant for him. So it's a great lesson in business, certainly in Saskatchewan, but other places where he was as well. So it's a great lesson for business, and many people know the people that he knew. So it is just a remarkable book of certainly kind of our life, his life, and what it's like. So I helped edit it, so I read it several times, but it's really good.
Yeah. We'll drop the link for the memoir in the bio. Everybody, go check it out.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, of course. So, you're so wise, right? You've learned so much from your father. You've learned so much from your leadership roles. This is a question that we ask everybody. Like, if you want to know something about somebody, don't ask what they do. Ask why they do what they do. So I'm going to ask you this. What's your why in life? Why do you do what you do?
I think you touched on it by being a leader. And like I said, it's varied, but it really matters to me that I lead my kids, I lead other people. What I do, I think, leads an example, and I think that matters. So certainly that's me, and why I think of what I do and how I do it.
So, any advice for people like us, like younger kids? So, you see a lot of young entrepreneurs and, young leaders, and you yourself who's learned from your father, and you also mentioned like your executive coach, you've gained pieces and fragments of leadership from like different people and made something of your own, which is unique to Pam Klein.
Mm-hmm.
How would you pass those mentorship skills, or like what would you tell people like us?
Well, you're doing a great job. Like you have a podcast, you figured out how to do that. You're traveling, you're speaking to other people that have stories, so that imparts on you. And I also think for my kids is that they travel, and that's awesome for them. So those are things that matter to me. I certainly see greatness in you guys. I see young entrepreneurs that are maybe going on their own, or they're really working hard to strive. And I think that is a great value that I see in young people, and I certainly see even in people in their 50s. Like I just see people trying, and I think that's valuable.
Right. Talking about entrepreneurship and business. So we're just starting out, and I think you're really kind to say that. Thank you so much, first of all. What's your biggest key takeaway? Like, what makes a business successful versus not.
Yeah. Well, I think like we keep talking about leadership, but it is, when you look at companies that succeed, usually it is the person that leads it. Some are not great, but certainly some are admirable and people that you look up to. And I think of Maya Angelou as a writer I just think the world of her. And, and there's many people that you read and you learn about them and they impart something on you. And then you take away what it is from them and you add it to yourself. And that's what I bring forward. And that's what I try to impart to other people as well.
If you were to say, like, you read a lot, right, as you said, and do you have any autobiographies of any leader that you would recommend to people out there?
I could recommend Maya Angelou. I think she was very wise and had great words. And I've read lots of nonfiction. I've read lots of fiction. So there isn't necessarily one that stands out to me, but there are both in fiction and nonfiction really great books that help you grow. And I read a lot, so it's great. What's the best book to read, whether it's fiction or not? And you pick it up and you read it, and it's it is a great book. And actually, it's funny that I mentioned Kelly Garrett. So she too has published a book, and it's on certainly leadership and strength and what that looks like. And her book From Here is great too. Like it's where they are and who has something to share with you.
And I feel like that's just so beautiful about the soul journey, like you mentioned about your father and Kelly too. Like, sure, you can read Steve Jobs, his autobiography. You can read something from Bill Gates. But when you see like people in your own personal life writing something that's so powerful, so moving, like you mentioned about your father too, I feel like it just pushes you to be better.
Yeah,
Like
for
it
sure.
ignites that drive inside of you. Like, of course, like I'm not undermining all the great leaders in this world, but when you see that happening in your personal life, I feel like that just shapes you. Like I feel like you as a person were bound to become a leader,
Oh, thank you.
right? Because like if your father was like that, and I really believe in this fact that like children are a byproduct of the environment that they're raised in. So the values
Interesting,
that
yeah.
your father brings to this world, the teachings that he brings, you will inherit them. Even if you don't want to, you will still
Yeah.
do it. Because you're raised around that, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
And I believe you did the exact same thing for your kids too.
Thank you. I do believe I do that, and I think they would say that as well. And I think it's funny. I remember a time we were in Vancouver, which I love, and so we were shopping, and we were just going down a street, and lots of stores. And my daughter came up to me, and she just put her arms around me, and she goes, "You're a good person." And I thought, wow, that's great that she actually felt that way and could share that. So I always remember that because I think that's a great momentum for me, certainly to lead and what to do. So yeah, it's the moments
Right.
that are there. Yeah,
Did it feel good as a person or good as a mother?
both
Right.
for sure. Oh, for sure, as a mom,
You
absolutely.
love to hear that, don't you?
But oh yeah, and then also just in leading, like it's just I said, wow, that was really great. That she said that in that moment. Yeah, it was very valuable for me, for sure.
So, everybody can be a leader, right? You don't have to be a CEO or president of a company to be a leader. And I feel like the most important leadership role, and which actually shapes a community, is parenting, right? I think that's the most important leadership role anybody can be in. Do you have any advice for all the parents out there?
Well, I just think you need to do what's right. I think you lead with gratitude, you lead with appreciation, you share what's value to you. And kind of like you said before, is, as a parent, as part of that, it goes to your kids. And that's what I think really matters. And, I know people who are, they are great parents and they do a good thing. And I think that really matters. But you do what means the most to you. And I do think it's your kids and it's other people around you as well that see that value for sure.
You know, and this is just me looking at it from like an outside lens, from like a wide lens. But you are a very positive person,
Thank you.
right? Because like you mentioned too, you said that the values that you bring forward for your kids, they inherit that and they emit that further. So in times of sickness, when the days were not as bright, the days were actually dark, you've had to had a lot of positivity, probably even take something out of your reserve. Because you know, like say for example, that a person has, if you want to say like a jar of positivity, sometimes you have to pull stuff like loan positivity from somewhere.
Yeah, for
So you
sure.
can still
Yeah.
make sure that, you know, like my kids, they see that there's always light at the end of the tunnel. What would you tell a person who's struggling to find that light at the end of the tunnel? Because you've been through a phase of your life where you know the days aren't that easy and you're not going to like sugarcoat anything for anybody. Be like,
No.
no, it's all good. It's all good. No, like if something's shit, it's something is shit.
Yeah.
So how do
Yeah.
you, how do you like, you know, have this conversation with a person that there is light at the end of the tunnel? Like, what would you suggest them?
Well, and I think certainly having, cancer, and actually I had stroke a couple years ago, like I've had enough that set me back, but I also found that there is strength to carry on. Like you learn and you grow, and that's part of who you are. And I think, that's where it is that you need to find out of that jar something that gives you strength. And like you said, it's not great, but it's there, and people see it, and people see how hard you work, and that makes a big difference. But for sure, there's hard times, no question, for sure.
And we certainly can't get through this stuff alone. So who was by your side? Of course, like there's family, but
Oh,
like
for sure.
who were the people by you?
Certainly my good friends, like in both cases, like they were there for sure. And that's what I say, you tell them, and that helps free you in saying something to those people that matter to you. And then they give you love, they give you support. That's what they do. And those are your good friends. Those are people, that you love for sure.
And I feel like that's also another great skill when it comes to your personal life and leadership is being your authentic people self, right? Because if you act really closed off or really really cold, or you know, like when I'm the CEO and I'm just gonna keep like everything just straight to the point, I don't think you really develop any relationships. And I feel like that's also like how you thrive in a personal life and also in like a business too, is opening up to people, allowing people to get into your life, sharing those personal details. That really shapes a person too, I think.
Well, and I think, some of the things I went through, those are the hard things for sure. I share them with my staff, I share them with my family, so they understand those pieces that are very difficult, that you go through. So they can see that, and they can see how you respond, and they see the emotion, and they see, ultimately the joy. But that is who you are, and for sure there's hard times for sure, but that's what you share, and I think that's so other people grow as well. It's like when you pull out of that jar, there's difficult times, but there are some good times that you need to find for sure.
And I think it bring back to this idea of having a strong community around you, right? The world we are in right now, everybody's moving towards more individualism. Like people are not interacting with each other a lot, and everybody's like very closed off. But as you said, like to go through hard times, you need people around you. And not just that, like when it's time for you to help them, you do that too, right? So I think it's just having a really good community around you and just giving to people. I think the biggest problem is like we are so consumed with consuming, and not just consuming like money, data, and all that, but just, so if I do something for XYZ, right, they get it from me, right? And they just consume, they don't give back, like, just giving back to others as well. I've seen like the biggest leaders that I've been like around, they just believe in giving to others. Like they don't care about if they get it or not. They just believe in giving to people.
Yeah.
Right? What do you think about that?
I love that idea. And actually, after this was a few years after I had cancer, like I think it was 2019 was when we finished. But I had an event called Power of Pink. So what I felt is that people came to me, and I thought, you tip somebody who gives you good service, you tip somebody who does your hair, you tip. And I thought, how can I tip the people that saved my life? And so I got a group of friends together and we came up with this idea that really was kind of a fashion show and showcase. And we had members of the community that were part of it. And, it grew to, 600 people. And we raised $1 million over the years that the program was there. And I feel really prideful of that moment, and my friends who were involved. Like I think there were 13 or 14 that made it happen, but it was a big deal, and I think it mattered to all of us. So that was one thing that I did, but I certainly believe in certainly giving back as much as you can in a way that you can, and it might be money, it might be time, it might be just giving of yourself. But I think it's really important, and you're right. It is a time of individualism, and we look at the States, we look all over, and it's just a consumption, and it's not really heartfelt. Like it's really tough right now, for sure.
And
Right.
like Nikhil and I are always on like the same page of this thing. We really believe in the idea of being selfless when it comes to doing something. Like me personally, like what I really believe in is if I see a person who I know I can help, I don't expect anything back.
Yeah.
Like I'm just that type of person that I think I would rather help people than like of course like if I'm in need, like I would ask for help too.
Yeah.
But it's just about like I'm not doing it to get anything back. And I feel like that's something that people really need to adopt as well, which people do.
Yeah.
There are a lot of people who are very selfless.
Yeah.
But what I've also seen in this world is that people do something and they base everything as like a transaction, as a business transaction, that like if I do something for you, I expect something back.
Yeah, and I think that happens. That's business. That's part of what you do, and you give something and you expect something back. But to your point of just giving is a great gift.
Right.
Like that's a beautiful thing. To however you choose to give, and you don't expect anything back. Like that's a great moment, and that's a great feeling for you, and it's a great way for you to contribute, and a great way to help somebody. Like you don't know how it helps them, but it might just do something to change their life.
I think it comes back to this idea of what he exactly said, that having good leaders. Like, because again, it's the leaders who change the world, right? So if the leaders have the right perspective about giving to others, we're gonna learn from them, right?
For sure.
If I work at Phoenix Group and I see Pam doing great things for people and not expecting anything, well, I would do the same, right? So it honestly comes back to leadership. Everything comes back to leadership.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, like you mentioned, it's really important to build those people connections where you work, especially where you lead. I want to ask, how's your relationship with you and your staff?
I would say it's very positive. I get feedback from them. I get negative. I get things that make us grow, and I help the agency grow. And I think even my leadership team, like they're strong, and we just have that value that really brings to the agency. And I said before, we're values based, so to me it makes a difference, and it helps our staff to see how they contribute and what they do, and it just helps them grow and how they feel. And we have very young staff, and we have older staff, so it varies, and I think they do get a value. And certainly we have people leave, and that's what happens. But we often see people value what they learned, certainly through Phoenix Group and through other things that we do as well, for sure.
And if you had to describe to our viewers and listeners that this is what sets Phoenix Group aside from everybody or every other business, in your community, what's unique about Phoenix Group?
Well, I would say for sure how we give back to community. We encourage that. We donate, and we do great product. Like our clients really thrive, and they value from what we bring to the table. And I do think in Saskatchewan we are the very best, and I do think we do great work, and we help them succeed. And we say we work with the underdogs and help them grow. And I think that's a big part of what we do.
Awesome. Okay, we'll lead to the end of our podcast. And so this is the rapid fire round.
Okay.
I'm going to ask you 3 questions. Pranav's going to ask you 3 questions. You have to
Okay.
answer one word, one sentence. You want to start us off?
For sure. So if you could give one piece of advice to 20-year-old Pam, what would that be?
It would be experience and travel.
Which you did.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Awesome. And if you could make one rule that everybody in this world had to follow, what would that be?
Give back to the community.
What are you most grateful for in your life right now?
I would say, my kids and my husband, for sure. Like they give me strength. They give me energy. It's very positive for sure.
And sorry, just one question.
Yeah.
If you could just, and this is for since it was Valentine's Day yesterday. No, I'm kidding. But what was your guys' story? Like you guys are going strong for, you mentioned 30 plus years.
Yeah.
What's the secret?
I think it is certainly honesty. It's certainly truth. And it's when it's good or bad, you share that. Like we share everything. And that makes a big difference.
Awesome. What's the worst piece of advice you've ever heard?
Oh my gosh. Oh my. Really hard. I would say don't do anything. Stop. And I've been told that too. So.
Really?
If you could have a conversation with anybody, dead or alive, who would that be?
Oh my. You're alive. Think of dead. I can't even think. I would say, like I said her before, Maya Angelou. I would love to have seen her speak and have a conversation with her. And I think the States. I think of Barack Obama. I think of leaders that when you look at them, you go, "Wow, they actually do something to manage people." And I think that's something really good. Even though Barack Obama's not dead, but he's
What's
very
the
much
first
alive.
question you would ask Maya Angelou? Like you mentioned her so many times, right? Like you see her, you're probably mesmerized first of all.
Yeah.
What's the first thing you would ask her?
I would say, what's the greatest thing in your life?
That's a good rapid fire question for us.
Noted. What's your favorite restaurant, Regina?
Well, tonight we're going to Homestead. I love that.
Okay.
And I love really local places. Like we love Greco's. I love Memories. I love really new local startup restaurants is what we really try. We really try to support. Certainly new here, and certainly wherever we go, we always experience something new and different.
Interesting. Okay, so since we're going to Calgary next week, do you have any recommendations in Calgary for us? You should try this restaurant.
Well, I think if you go to the market, I think there's a great opportunity certainly to meet people and see what goes on there. And it is a big city. So you're at a marathon, is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a half
Yeah.
marathon.
Yeah. So I think just to experience the people that are there, and I think you ask them, why do you do this?
Right.
It's interesting. I met a woman. I've known her for a while, and I just said, "Oh my God!" Like she runs marathons all the time, and I just said, "How do you do it?" And she goes, "It's just in my blood. It's what I've got to do." And she's played in Boston. She's running,
Oh, wow.
Boston, New York, all over. Like she's really good.
No, I always get I get so fascinated when I see that. So I'm not like the best runner. Like I'm really slow. I don't know. Like
I think you're fast.
but I see like people that are like twice, even 3 times my age, running faster than everybody. Like they got their pace down. They've been doing it for so long. And I think I was talking to this a woman. I think she was 65. Even though she was like not the fastest person out there, she completed her 10K. And I just get so fascinated by seeing they just don't want to stop. It's like they
For
love
sure.
that.
Yeah, and you're right. It's in your body. Whatever you choose to do, it's what motivates you. So it might be running, it might be exercising, it might be walking, it might be meditation. It's whatever moves you. I think is a pretty great way to go.
How do you move? Like if you had to what do you do in your personal time to keep yourself active?
I love to go to the gym.
Okay.
So I go to Evolution and I do that. I certainly read. I love to cook. I love to entertain. Those are things that bring me joy.
All rounder, basically. Yeah. A bit of everything.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So before we end the podcast, do you have any final words, any piece of advice, anything you would like to say to the people out there, to our listeners, to our viewers?
Well, I think we've touched a lot on it, but I do think it is to travel, whether you're alone or not. I think it is to be really good to people, and I think it is to live by your standards. And like you said, people learn from that. So I think that's what matters.
Sweet. Well, Pam, it's been an amazing conversation. It's been great getting to know you.
Oh, thank
Just
you.
beyond the pre-podcast meeting too, we learned so much about you.
Oh, thank you.
We, from this conversation and like just talking to you in general, just see nothing but the best.
Oh, thank you. Well, I love meeting you.
Yeah,
So
I appreciate
thank
that.
you. I appreciate the call for sure. I thought it was great. So thank you very much.
Of course.
Sure.
So thank you for being on A Little Perspective.